The silent dawn, the pulse of your being. Introduction. Pause for a moment. Not because the world demands it, but because your soul is whispering. Today, you didn't arrive early or late. You arrived exactly when life opened this door for you. Perhaps you haven't noticed, but something has been calling you for a while. It's not a voice that shouts. It's a gentle rhythm, like the echo of a distant drum, pulsing right behind your chest. That beat reminds you there is more beyond what you've touched, seen, or measured. You've been told reality is built in the mind, that every thought is a spark that ignites invisible worlds. And yet, a part of you still wonders, is it true, or just the reflection of a longing I've never dared to name? This is not a manual with numbered steps. It is not a map drawn by others. It is a journey woven from symbols, silences, and images that only take on meaning when you choose to see them with your whole being. Here, you won't find quick formulas, but you will find ancient keys to open the inner doors. You'll discover the universe is not a cold mechanism, but a living field that responds to the music you radiate. The force you've been seeking isn't hidden in distant stars. It lives in every breath you've taken since the moment you were born. As you move forward, you'll notice that some truths don't announce themselves with trumpets. They reveal themselves at the exact moment you're ready, like flowers that only bloom in the twilight. If you choose to walk this path, something within you will begin to shift. The story you thought was fixed will start to rewrite itself. You'll see patterns you couldn't see before and realize that even in your pauses, you were moving forward in silence. This message didn't find you by accident. It's a sign for the one who is ready. You're not a seeker wandering blind. You are the awareness that has begun to remember. If these words resonate, you already know the journey has begun. All that's left is to take the next step and open yourself to what has always been waiting for you. Are you ready to step into your own portal? Chapter 1. The Birth of Your Essential Light. There is a light that sustains everything you see, yet it doesn't come from the sun, from fire, or from the water flowing beneath the earth. Its origin lies beyond the tangible, in a place where essence becomes light and light becomes form. Not so long ago, there was a traveler with a calm gaze who walked between worlds. He crossed towns and cities where people believed the real was only what they could touch, but he knew otherwise. He would close his eyes, and in doing so, open landscapes, encounters, and paths that existed only in the invisible weave of his consciousness. Some called him the dream walker, others simply the one who creates with every breath. He didn't look at the world as a spectator. He shaped it, like an artist who knows the clay from which all things are made. Every meeting, every unexpected turn, every moment of joy or sorrow was the echo of an inner state. He hadn't learned it from scrolls or doctrines. He had lived it. A teacher without dogma showed him that sacred words were not chronicles of the past, but inner maps for exploring one's own soul. And so the dreamwalker learned a truth that burns and transforms. Imagination is not fantasy. It is the workshop where the inevitable is forged. His wisdom grew from 3 deep roots. The inner sanctuary. You don't see the world as it is. You see it as you are inside. If scarcity breathes within you, the universe dresses in lack. If abundance blues there, life becomes a fertile garden. Every thought is a seed. Every emotion is water. Every belief is a root.
Guard your sanctuary as you would guard the fire of your home, for it springs the shape your destiny will take. The intentional gaze. What you focus on grows. Where you place your attention, the world responds. Your desire is a lighthouse, and your attention is a river. Guide them toward what you want to see flourish. The emotional pulse. A thought without feeling is like planting in dry sand. Feeling is the soul's language, the spark that transforms image into experience. It's not enough to imagine, you must feel as if it were already real. The dreamwalker would say, "You don't become what you long for. You become what you already know yourself to be." This creative force never rests. If you don't direct it, it will create by default, shaping your fears, your wounds, and your sleeping beliefs. Awakening is not about controlling the outer world. It is about lighting up the inner one. And those who first ignite their own soul offer the world a light that cannot be extinguished. To be conscious is not to collect theories. It is to practice the alchemy of the heart. It is to live like a painter who, with every thought, draws a stroke on the canvas of time. The dreamwalker didn't come to impose rules. He came to remind you that you are a creator, that your imagination is a gift, and your future already exists within your present awareness. Don't wait for something external to confirm it. Feel it now, and the world will follow. A practice to begin. Decide clearly what you want. Visualize a short scene where it is already happening. Feel it with your whole being as if there were no turning back. Then the invisible dance begins. People appear, doors open. The improbable rearranges itself. It's not superstition, it's a law as precise as gravity. The dreamwalker witnessed changes that seemed like miracles. Bodies healing, distances collapsing, hearts finding each other again. And in the midst of all these revelations, he understood something deeper. Time does not move in a straight line. It unfolds from within you, each time you imagine with living emotion. Where you once saw walls, doors now appear. What you thought were limits turn out to be learned ideas. There is no separation between you and others, or between you and the divine. The world you see is the intimate mirror of your inner universe. If you're hearing this, you are already awakening. The next step is to live this truth as art. The universe doesn't demand obedience. It simply invites you to remember and to play the notes of your own eternal symphony.
Chapter 2. The Thought That Weaves Reality. There was a time before calendars, when dawn was a golden fire awakening songs in the sand, and stones guarded their stories like sealed chests. In the midst of that landscape appeared a figure who didn't walk like the rest. He seemed to glide between worlds. He was not entirely man, nor entirely God. His presence recalled both, yet his essence went beyond them. The elders named him the keeper of the three reflections, for in his eyes danced three languages, the language of souls, the language of stars, and the language of that which has no name. He built no temples. He left no stone altars. His teaching was a quiet fire, a spark that ignited without consuming. He would say, "Do not climb the mountain just to feel its summit. The summit already lives in your mind." The first revelation. It came as precise as a heartbeat. All is mind. Not as a vague idea, but as the raw substance from which everything is made. In an age that worshipped the solidity of stone and the weight of metal, he turned the world's vision inside out. Matter was not the source. It was the frozen image of an eternal thought. The primordial mind is not far away, nor hidden in some distant heaven. It is the canvas on which all is painted. Every galaxy, every river, every breath is a living stroke, sustained by the attention of infinite consciousness. Like invisible ink, revealing the meaning of a sacred text, the mind holds the shape of all that is real. The living mirror. In the ancient chronicles of the Mirror of Living Fire, there is a phrase that still beats in those who hear it. In the eternal mind, we live, move, and exist. Every green shoot, every dying star, every gaze that unites two beings is thought flowing from the inexhaustible heart of being. And you, listener, are not separate from that universal mind. You are a flash of its light, a unique note within the symphony that gave birth to worlds. When the keeper repeated 3 times, "As above, so below," he wasn't speaking of hierarchies or celestial thrones, but of the living correspondence between the vast and the small. You are a wave that has forgotten it is the ocean. And remembering that truth changes everything. Thought as alchemy. This teaching is not poetry meant to decorate the mind. It is alchemy in action. If all is mind, then your thoughts are not streams locked inside your head. They are vibrations expanding into the sacred field of being. What you call reality is simply the form your attention has taken. Your limits, your fears, your losses, they are not final sentences, but shapes molded by ideas that can dissolve. Consciousness is the potter, form is the clay, and in every moment, without exception, you are shaping your world. The echo in modern science. What's remarkable is that this truth, once whispered in caves and temples, now begins to echo in modern laboratories. Science is starting to admit what the sages already knew. Matter is secondary. Consciousness is the origin. The keeper of the 3 reflections did not come to fill you with data, but to set your being on fire. He did not teach so you would repeat, but so you would remember. A simple practice. Take any object, a leaf, a stone, a glass of water, and look at it in silence. Ask yourself, is this object in the world or in my awareness? You'll realize its color lives in your perception, its texture in your experience. Slowly, you'll see that the object and the observer are not separate. That is the first step on this path of fire, not a journey of physical steps, but of an awakened soul. To understand that all is mind is not the destination. It is the spark that begins your return to the home you never left.
Chapter 3. The Architect of the Invisible Field. The world is not a fixed stage waiting for us to open our eyes. It is a tapestry being woven in real time, thread by thread, in the very moment we look at it. So said Jacob Greenberg, a sage of deep silences and neural sparks. Like Hermes or the Silent Traveler, he refused to separate science from spirit, or to draw a line between the brain and the infinite. To him, reality was not an immovable stone, but a living dance between consciousness and an invisible field of information. Nothing exists without the witness who beholds it. Every perception is an intimate mirror of what is happening inside you. The synergetic theory. This discovery, born in neuroscience labs, did not remain locked in formulas. It became a bridge between atoms and prayers, between equations and meditations. While some sought truth under the microscope or deep in the telescope's lens, Greenberg explored that invisible territory where mind and universe meet like two ancient lovers recognizing each other. From this came what he called the synergetic theory. Not a map to a destination, but a compass for seeing differently. Imagine reality as a boundless ocean of pure information, shapeless until your attention touches it. This field of potential is not made of atoms, but of latent vibrations. You cannot see it, but it is always seeing you, and when it recognizes you, it adjusts to you. In that moment, it becomes the world you experience. Greenberg put it simply: the reality you see is the dance between your mind and the field of information that already exists. Perceiving is creating. According to the old model, light bounces off an object, enters the eye, and the brain turns it into an image, implying we are only receivers. The synergetic vision tells another story. To perceive is to create. The mind projects hypotheses, sends them into the field, and the field responds, corrects, amplifies. The brain is not a mirror, it is an unending generator of possibilities. This aligns with ancient Hermetic wisdom: as above, so below. The universe is not separate from you, it extends through you. Greenberg went further. If reality is an informational field in dialogue with consciousness, then time is not a straight line, but a mutable relationship. In certain deep states of awareness, sequence dissolves and simultaneity steps forward. That's how we can understand dreams that foresee events, sudden visions, and the ability to sense what has not yet happened. The human being ceases to be a prisoner of a single present and becomes a conscious mode within a field of infinite possible realities. The synergetic view is not just a science, it is an ancient reminder. All is consciousness. Matter is simply its densest garment. We are not here to observe from the shore. We are here to create, to awaken potentials waiting to be recognized.
Chapter 4. The Sacred Name of the Creator. Before the first spark lit the void, before the echo of the universe's first breath, there was only one presence, one pulse that answered to no name but its own. I am. This I am is not a passing thought or a poetic metaphor. It is the flame that burns without fuel, the heartbeat that gave rise to stars and oceans, to atoms and constellations, to the entire mystery we call reality. When you speak those two words, you're not just making a sound. You awaken the same force that shaped galaxies and painted light onto the darkness of the beginning. No dogma required. No distant creed to recite. This is a living truth your soul can feel here and now, like a fire you recognize because it has always lived within you. The power behind your words. Every word you place after I am is a chisel carving your reality. If you say, I am fragile, your world will clothe itself in fragility. If you declare, I am abundance, the gates of plenty begin to open. Consciousness is the raw material of everything that exists, and your reality is the faithful reflection of your inner state. Creation doesn't happen in the future. It's born in the instant your I am becomes conscious. The forgotten revelation. Many seek that power as if it were a treasure outside themselves, something to conquer or earn. But the truth is, it has never left you. It is inseparable from what you are. Recognizing your I am is returning to the source from which everything manifests. As Master Ilya once said,
The universe doesn't become what you desire. It becomes what you already are in your present awareness. It's not about forcing reality to change. It's about living as if what you desires is already complete. Letting the vibration you hold redesign what you see and touch. The difference that changes everything. There is a canyon of difference between saying, I want to be happy, and saying, I am happy. The first keeps you waiting. The second anchors you in immediate fullness. The true creative act isn't reciting hollow formulas. It's inhabiting your declaration with your whole body, your whole mind, your whole soul. The echo in the universe. Each time you speak I am with intention, clarity, and emotion, you plant a seed in the vast field of collective consciousness. The universe doesn't judge, filter, or argue. It simply reflects what you have declared. That's why the key is not mechanical repetition, but embodying your words from the heart. When feeling carries the word, reality bends toward your vibration, and what once seemed impossible begins to take shape. The birthright of every conscious being. This is not a gift for the chosen few, it's the birthright of every awakened soul. When you know and live your I am, you step into your role as the architect of your destiny. Because the creator and the creation are not two separate forces, they're two faces of the same eternal flame. Each time you invoke your I am and feel it burning in the center of your chest, you remember the primordial unity. The sacred name of the creator is not out there. It lives in your own consciousness. And in that moment, all that you are is reborn.
Chapter 5. The Cosmic Heartbeat of Matter. In the vast theater of the cosmos, where stars hum secret melodies to the silence, what your hands call solid, that cold stone, that table holding your thoughts, is not what it seems. It is a shimmering illusion, a perpetual dance of invisible waves moving to the rhythm of a pulse that never stops. Matter is never still. It breathes. It expands and contracts, in tune with a universe that never rests. Elian's discovery. Ages ago, the sage Elian sank into the deepest silence within himself, and there, without words, he understood. Everything flows. Everything vibrates. Nothing is still. The keepers of the mysteries sang it in their chants. Nothing remains unchanged. Everything vibrates in eternity. This truth, as ancient as light itself, is hidden beneath the mask of stability, like a wave pulsing even in the stillness of stone. Science meets mystery. Today, modern instruments confirm what the ancient initiates already knew. The atom is not a solid block, but an ocean of emptiness where tiny particles spin like dancers around invisible centers. Even your body, that temple of energy, is a miniature universe where electrons orbit hidden suns. For Elian, matter was not a lie, but an incomplete veil, a mixture of shadow and flame that only hints at the light that animates it. The illusion of the visible. The greatest human error is to think what you see is all there is. The ancient Hermetic law reminds us, as above, so below. The spirals of galaxies mirror the trail of a seashell. The heartbeat of the cosmos echoes in your own chest. There is no true border. Everything vibrates within the same cosmic symphony. The vibration that transforms. Elian taught that you can change your world by changing your inner vibration. You are not a prisoner of a rigid universe. You live in an ocean of frequencies that responds to your consciousness. Raise your inner pulse, and matter will bow to your fire, just as water yields to heat. The spiritual path is not an escape from the physical, but an art, the art of tuning your own instrument to perceive what the untrained eye cannot see. Bridges to the invisible. Through sacred practices, deep meditation, chants that stir the blood, dances that open portals, rituals of purification, and the conscious use of master plants, you can enter states where matter ceases to be a barrier and becomes a bridge to the infinite. At that point, spirit and matter are no longer opposites. They recognize each other as two notes of the same eternal melody. The return to the primordial pulse. Enlightenment is not a distant peak, but the return to the original whisper, the soul remembering its purest vibration, free from the illusion of rigidity, dancing to the eternal rhythm of the cosmic heartbeat.
Chapter 6. The Journey Without Sunrise. Long before your eyes opened to the light of this world, you were already breathing in a silence without hours, in a place where memory had no name and calendars did not exist. And when your eyelids close for the final time, you will still be traveling light, unbound, without borders, like a song that refuses to fade. What you truly are, at the deepest center of your being, cannot be contained in the brief tale you call life. Your soul did not begin with your first heartbeat, and it will not end with your last breath. This is not a comfort to soften fear. It is a steady, unshakable truth. Your inner flame is immortal, a river with no beginning and no end. The memory that never fades. The sage Alaric once said, "Knowledge is not something you acquire, it is something you remember." It does not arrive from outside, it rises from within, like a hidden spring breaking through the stone. When a real truth appears, it lights the night of your doubts and turns fear into pure clarity. That is the sacred moment of anamnesis, the awakening of what you have always known. Alaric told the story of a young pilgrim who, without teacher or school, solved an impossible riddle by following only the voice of his own intuition. And so he proved. The deepest truths are never learned, they are remembered. The sacred circle of life. Dr. Serena continued this teaching. Each life is a sacred circle, another chance to peel away the veils and return to the spark that beats within the eternal. Metempsychosis is not about punishment or endless repetition. It is a chosen journey, a shedding of layers, until your inner light stands uncovered. Arion, traveler of the world and the soul, would say, "The soul chooses its body the way a musician chooses an instrument. Joys, losses, encounters, and farewells are not accidentes. They are melodies carefully chosen to lift your vibration and harmonize you with the great universal symphony." Beyond the self. Elion, the thrice illumined, summed up the law in a single golden thread. As above, so below. The immortality of the soul is not about preserving a name or a face that still belongs to the ego. It is about merging with the fire that burns in all living things, becoming an inseparable spark of the flame that never dies. Your true self was never born, and that is why it cannot die. It is pure consciousness. Between lives, there is a threshold of rest, not of forgetting. There, the soul weaves together all it has lived, tying invisible threads to other existences. That child who plays an instrument without ever learning it, that love that appears without reason, these are not accidents. They are ancient memories slipping quietly into the present. The freedom to return. Reincarnation is not starting over. It is returning with a suitcase filled with lessons and gifts. The ancient mysteries never promised an escape from physical death. They taught the art of embracing the cycle with wisdom, courage, and love. Alaric told the myth of Elion, the warrior, who after death saw the purified souls and those who chose to return. And then he understood. There is no judge outside. Each soul chooses its next step according to the vibration it carries into eternity. The way home. Reincarnation is the divine art of continuing your evolution. True freedom begins when you remember you are eternal, a resident of a place beyond time. With that knowing, life is no longer an escape or a sentence. It becomes a sacred pilgrimage back to your true home, where every breath is a key, unlocking your star-born memory and rekindling the spark that will never, ever fade. Chapter 7. The Guardian of the Inner Sun. In the deepest fold of silence, when the waves of thought grow still and the soul begins to hear its own pulse, a presence emerged. It did not come from far away. It did not descend from the sky or rise from the earth. It was born from the very center of being, as if it had been waiting forever for that single moment of stillness. They called her the guardian of the inner sun, the fire that was always there. She knew true wisdom could not be inherited, nor imposed as law. It was not a jewel to be handed over, but a fire waiting within, ready for the breeze that would awaken it. That spark, a drop of infinity, a secret sun from the beginning, burns at the core of every soul, ready to flood your entire existence with light. Not followers, but awakeners. Her teaching carried no banners and promised no one true way. She sought no disciples, only awakeners, men and women willing to remember what they already were. While some traveled to distant temples in search of the divine, she walked barefoot along humble paths, showing that the sacred breathes in every leaf, whispers in every stone, beats in every heart. You need no altar when you recognize the fire behind all forms. Lighting the flame with wonder. To her, learning was not about filling the mind with data, but about brushing away the dust that hides the inner truth. A true teacher, she said, does not hand you answers, but sparks questions, like flint striking to awaken a sleeping spark. Wonder was her alchemy, curiosity her fuel. Seeing with the guardian's eyes. Her mission seemed simple, to remind you that you already are the fire you're searching for. She saw in every river, in every face, in every root gripping the earth, the temporary body of an eternal light. There are not two worlds. The visible and invisible are interwoven in the same melody of warmth and clarity. The temple is you. Inner alchemy, she taught, needs no secret formulas, only presence. Honor your body as a living temple. Listen to the rhythm of your breath. Feel the beat of your blood. Recognize the fire that burns quietly in your deepest depths. There, fears dissolve. There, the certainty is born that your creative power depends on nothing outside you. The flame continues. Those who heard her carried the warmth of her message in their chests. It was not a trick, nor a hidden ritual, but the purest revelation. Every passionate thought, every sustained emotion, every act of love feeds your own flame.
The guardian left without promising to return, but her light remains in those who learn to keep it alive. Her legacy can be summed up in a single line: light your sun. Let its clarity transform your path. In the soul's journey, there is no torch more powerful than the one burning quietly at your own center. Chapter 8: The Awakening of Silent Unity. In a time so ancient it blends with myth, there existed a vast, quiet truth that the noise of the world could barely touch. It had no single name. For some it was spirit, for others the raw force of nature, and a few dared to call it God. But in its purest essence, it was not a being with face or form, but the limitless substance that sustains and animates every spark of life. The contemplator's vision. A sage with deep eyes, whom we will call the contemplator, did not seek this presence in faraway altars or in dusty old manuscripts. He found it in the small and the eternal, in the trembling of a single leaf, in the innocence of a child's gaze, in the perfect spiral of a seashell. His message came without adornment, like a whisper that pierces the soul. Everything is part of everything, and everything beats to the rhythm of the same heart. The dance of the visible and the invisible. He taught that the universe is not a stage on which we act, but at once the stage, the actor, and the play. Like the sun needing its shadow to complete the day, thought and form dance to a drum that cannot be seen but can be felt. Spirit and body are not opposites. They answer to the same primordial vibration. Virtue as expansion. From this organic view, virtue does not come from outside orders, but from recognizing that we are all threads of the same fabric. Goodness is anything that expands our capacity to love and to create. What reduces it is not absolute evil, but a shadow waiting to be embraced. And friendship blooms when we recognize our own light reflected in another. A lighthouse, not a chain. Though life may sometimes seem ruled by immovable forces, that supposed destiny is a lighthouse, not a prison chain. The first act of real freedom is to understand our inner motivations and decide from the authentic center of our being. All in all. The contemplator repeated, the divine lives in everything, in a solitary tree, in a dune lit by sunset, in a distant star, in the eyes of a stranger. When you understand this, you stop being a leaf blown by the wind and become the wind that moves the leaves. The message of Lucas. The teacher Lucas in his final lesson summed it up simply: you were never separate. No miracles are needed to return home. Only the courage to look within. There, in that inner space, you discover there are no true victims or villains, only processes waiting to be understood. And when you forgive them in yourself, you also free the world. The spring without a date. When this awakening comes, what he called the silent spring blooms, not a month on the calendar, but a state of deep unity, where everything vibrates in unison. There, every daily act becomes sacred, and life itself unfolds as the eternal season of a heart that has awakened. Chapter 9: The Sanctuary of Still Water. In the quiet depth of your awareness, where time seems to pause, water becomes a sacred mirror that needs no words to speak. Like a pond silently receiving the reflection of the sky, your mind, when it grows still, returns the image of the truth that has always lived in your heart. You don't have to go out and find it. You only have to recognize that liquid mirror waiting in your center, ready to reveal your essence when the inner waves of noise fade away. The art of immersion. To descend into that stillness is to close the eyes of judgment and open the ears of wonder. Every sensation is like a drop that kisses the surface it ripples, expands, and returns to calm. Do not resist the movement. It is part of the invisible choreography of the universe. When you allow each emotion to find its path, the water regains its clarity, and your inner reflection emerges pure. Keeping the water clear. Guarding that crystal mirror is an art of constancy and attention. With every deep inhale, light enters you. With every exhale, the sediments of fear and tension are released. Layers of rigidity melt like ice beneath the sun, and your inner lake learns to remain true, showing the strength and kindness often hidden beneath the fog of hurry. The unmoving witness. When the reflection is clear, the silent witness emerges, the one who observes all without fusing with any of it. That presence, beyond thoughts and emotions, lives in essential stillness, aware without effort. In its company, the water of the soul opens into a horizon, and every idea drifts lightly until only the luminous clarity of your primordial being remains.
Chapter 10. The Subtle Pulse of Now. Consciousness is a quiet breath, moving through every fold of your being. It does not arrive from outside. Like a passing wind, it rises from your own center, awakening your senses and trembling. Shadows of the past and their lingering echoes dissolve like morning mist. The art of being here. To be here is not a duty, it is a delicate art. Listening to that murmur that never changes, even as the world rushes past. In that brief yet eternal instant, yesterday and tomorrow embrace in a single heartbeat of light. Your being stands bare, no masks, no interpreter between you and the moment. The calm witness. When you attend to that inner pulse, you see your thoughts float like leaves in a swirling stream. They appear, they spin, and they vanish, while you remain still, watching their dance without being carried away. There appears the silent witness living behind every emotion and every word, present without effort, like an unmoving lighthouse in the middle of the waves. Loving surrender. This path does not demand great feats, only a gentle yielding. It is not about catching every thought or silencing the mind with rigid force. It is about opening a clearing within, where your breath finds its own music and you can simply be the quiet spectator of your own mystery. When clarity blooms, from that fertile stillness, clarity begins to flow like pure water, pointing you toward your true direction. Words that ring true, gestures that align, choices that rise from the deepest intuition. There is no longer a line between meditation and action, because every movement is infused with the presence that gave it birth. And so, life itself becomes a spontaneous dance,
where each moment is its own world, and every choice a step toward wholeness. That inner pulse becomes your guide, reminding you that by living in the now, you are at once the masterpiece and the artist, the seed and the bloom.
Read aloud in a warm, captivating, and emotionally rich tone, as if you're sharing a deeply personal story with a close friend over coffee. Let every English word sparkle with authenticity, charm, and heartfelt enthusiasm. Your voice should gently pull listeners in, making them feel seen, understood, and inspired. Speak with rhythm and presence, inviting billions to stay, feel, and fall in love with every moment of the journey. Chapter 11. The Sacred Furnace of Imagination. Imagination is not a fleeting luxury, nor a pastime left behind in childhood. It is the soul's secret workshop, the place where the invisible begins to take form. The ancient visionaries knew this well. The traveler of silence, the guardian of the impossible, those who found in each image a doorway to worlds yet unborn. The spark you cannot learn. This fire cannot be inherited, nor obtained from manuals. It burns in the human heart as an eternal imprint of the divine. When you imagine with the weight of feeling and the certainty of the already accomplished, you are not inventing fantasies. You are planting a real seed in the fertile ground of the unmanifest. Every idea is a seed. Every emotion is the water that awakens it. Matter as an ancient dream. Everything you touch today and call solid is the crystallized echo of ancient visions. The physical world is a hardened dream, the tangible footprint of a deep desire charged with intention and love. This is why true inner alchemy does not rest on complex formulas, but on remembering the primordial art of living the future as if it were already here. To be, not to desire. Living from creative imagination is staying in the felt fullness, not in the waiting for what is missing. It is not about wanting something you do not have, but embodying it now, feeling it, breathing it, allowing the universe to arrange itself around that vibration. The sacred act of creation. The creative fire does not demand elaborate rituals, only loving surrender to the inner vision until it becomes so real that your body responds to it. This is how conscious creation begins. Weave in your mind a brief scene of your desired fulfilled. Immerse yourself in it with all your senses and watch how life, without rush, aligns in harmony with your vision. Not by luck, nor by tricks, but by the unshakable force of your sacred flame. Chapter 12. The Invisible Bridge Between Two Souls. Every human encounter is an open door to hidden territories within yourself. Sometimes it takes only a glance, a word spoken without intent, or the brush of a hand for something in you to awaken and remember what you thought was lost. Has it happened to you? That moment when someone, without meaning to, reflects back to you a part of yourself you didn't know there was? In the other, you discover your ways of loving, your most delicate fears, your shadows, and also the luminous sparks you often overlook. The courage to see without veils. The people who cross your path do not appear by chance. Some reignite a sleeping desire. Others touch wounds still alive. To recognize that mirror takes courage, the courage to look at what you've chosen to ignore, and the tenderness to embrace what you thought was incompatible with self-love. When you let go of judgment and listen without defending yourself,
The essential truth appears. We are more alike than we imagine, and every bond becomes sacred ground for healing, growing, and remembering who you are. Responding from the center. The key is not reacting from old stories, but responding from the clear silence that lives behind a deep breath. In that serene pause, the wise answer blooms. From there, you can truly listen, without expectation, offering yourself without disguise. Then, the relationship stops being a battlefield and becomes an alchemical laboratory. Two souls who, in recognizing each other, reassemble scattered fragments of the same invisible fabric. The art of conscious communion. True communion does not come from physical closeness or ornamented promises, but from the quiet decision to remain present and whole, to be who you are without seeking approval, to offer your inner flame as you would offer fire to the night without asking for anything in return. In that shared space, the real magic of connection appears, a melody that dissolves boundaries, transcends ego, and celebrates, in every genuine encounter, the eternal dance of the shared soul.
Chapter 13. The Secret Pulse That Connects Us All. Universal love is the silent current that links every atom, every star, every life. It is not a romantic impulse, nor a passing emotion. It is the essential vibration that awakens when you stop looking at the world through the limits of me and recognize your own spark of life beating in every being. In that instant, internal and external walls soften. Existence reveals itself as one living fabric of shared consciousness, a tapestry where every thread supports the others. Love in the everyday. Practicing this love does not require grand gestures. It begins in the small, feeling the air brush your skin, holding the gaze of a stranger, listening without the rush to reply. Each act becomes an offering. Each word can heal. And without seeking it, daily alchemy gives birth to compassion, not as a rule, but as the reflection of a deeper truth. The pain you carry silently is shared by all beings under the illusion of separation. The journey within. The path to this openness begins by looking inward, finding repeated judgments, wounds you still guard, expectations that blur your sight. Embrace them with the same tenderness you give your own joy. Only then does the light you radiate remain undistorted. To truly love is to risk without guarantee. And in that vulnerability lies the strength that transforms. The natural expansion. When you give love without condition, your heart opens like a lighthouse. Then, without effort, life begins to resonate with you. People, decisions, and projects align with a greater purpose. Your intention stops being an isolated act and becomes another note in the universal symphony. Chapter 14. The Silent Symphony of Being. All of existence pulses with a subtle rhythm, one that knows no borders of time or space. It is not a foreign heartbeat, nor a distant echo. It rises from the very core of your awareness, where your essence vibrates with a frequency that is yours alone, unmistakable, unrepeatable. To tune into that pulse is to remember the primordial melody that shapes all that you are and all that you see. Every thought, every emotion is a wave traveling through the vast ocean of your being. When your vibration rises through gratitude, joy, or pure attention, your entire life comes into tune. You become a conscious instrument, able to harmonize with the great universal concert. And if fear or sadness appears, they are not mistakes, but dissonant notes asking to be heard, embraced, and transformed into music. The dialogue between sound and silence. Sound and silence are not opposites. They are the two faces of creation. A word spoken with clear intention can ignite worlds, while deep silence is the fertile ground where realities still unseen take root. One prepares the other. Silence makes way for sound, and sound returns to silence to be renewed. The power of conscious vibration. Mantras, chants, affirmations, they do not live in mechanical repetition. Every syllable is a seed, and it can only grow if you plant it with presence. When you speak from certainty, the universe listens and responds, not as a hollow echo, but as a finely tuned reflection of your most honest intention. The hidden key? Listening within. True mastery is not only an expression, it is in listening, not to the voice of the world, but to the silence that holds it all. In that space, you will not find a map of instructions, but you will find a vibrational compass, an intimate signal that guides you toward ever-deepening wholeness. And there, in that resonant stillness, dwells wisdom without words. Only presence, only truth.
Chapter 15. Embracing Your Inner Night. The shadow is not a monster to be defeated. It is a hidden spring of living energy waiting for your embrace. Within it dwell emotions you've hidden, desires you've denied, memories you chose to bury. But silence does not erase them. When you ignore them, they drain your strength. When you leave them unnamed, they cloud your clarity. Acknowledging their presence is the first act of courage on your path toward wholeness. Have you felt that inner voice asking for attention, only to silence it? That meeting with the unseen begins when you stop judging yourself for what you consider dark and allow yourself to look with honesty. Observe without shame the exiled impulses, the old beliefs, the uncomfortable emotions. They are not threats, they are guests, and like all guests, they only wish to be heard. When you offer them a compassionate gaze, you discover that at their center they hold a gift, the raw material of your integrity. 3 steps to integrating your shadow. Attentive listening. Set aside a few minutes each day. Close your eyes, breathe, and notice what thoughts, sensations, or images arise. Do not judge them, just receive them. Inner dialogue. Invite those forgotten parts to speak. Ask them, what do you need to tell me? What have you been waiting for from me? Listen as you would to a wounded child or to a wise one speaking in whispers. Act of reconciliation. Make a symbolic gesture. Write a letter without filters. Draw what you feel, or sit in silence with your hand over your heart. Celebrate that this part of you no longer needs to hide. When you walk this process with openness, the shadow stops moving in secret and becomes your creative engine. The energy you once spent repressing is released like a river returning to its course. Then your vitality awakens your ability to love without fear, to dream without limits, to act with authenticity. When your shadow merges with your light, you don't just become whole, you expand, and life flows with a pulse more complete, more real, more yours.
Chapter 16. The Silent Orchestra of Awakening. True transformation is never a solitary journey. It arises when countless inner sparks begin to beat in unison. When the awakened I recognizes itself in a living we. It is not about adding together isolated efforts. It is something deeper. A shared vibration that moves beyond the ego and reshapes the invisible fabric of the world. Within this shared pulse, every luminous idea multiplies, and every elevated emotion becomes a bridge for others to cross into their own awakening. Have you felt that moment when someone speaks their truth and something inside you is set free as well? That is how this symphony works, like a pendulum swinging between the intimate and the collective. Your energetic coherence, your unmasked authenticity draws to you those who vibrate at the same frequency. And then, without effort, circles are born, spaces of support, inspiration, and mutual growth. When a group cultivates presence and compassion, unexpected synergies appear, creative projects, movements for change, networks that nourish from the deepest roots. Nurturing the alchemy of change. There is no need for grand ceremonies. Simple but living rituals are enough. Conscious gatherings where words are spoken not from noise, but from inner silence. Shared visualizations that unify intention. Symbolic celebrations that seal a new reality into the common fabric. There are no fixed formulas, only authenticity, only true presence. And then something ignites. A wave of resonance moves through hearts and communities. Every act of cooperation, every gesture of care, echoes beyond the group, shaking the foundations of a culture that once seemed immovable. Renewal stops being a distant dream and becomes the natural current of everyday life. Within the rhythm of this shared symphony, we discover a sacred truth. The power of community springs from the sincere offering of each heart. When your pulse aligns with the pulse of others, you no longer just walk, you compose. You become a co-author of a new score, a living melody that carries the echo of a greater purpose. And so, together, we weave the music of tomorrow already being born.
Epilogue. The flame you now carry. You have traveled through invisible landscapes. You have touched silences that speak and lit fires you didn't know were burning within you. This is not an ending. It is a threshold. What you've heard is not just a story, but a living map that now beats in your hands. Carry it with you at dawn, in an unhurried embrace, in a gaze that recognizes the same spark burning in another's eyes. Remember, every thought can be a seed, every word a bridge, every gesture is an echo that transforms. Today, you are the keeper of this flame. Share it with those who need it for a light. When multiplied, it does not weaken, it becomes infinite. The symphony of change begins with a single heartbeat of yours.